Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 54 units of real estate. So today I want to talk about, I'm on year 8 of real estate and it still sucks. So I kind of wish someone told me this, because the people that you hear that real estate's amazing, they've been doing real estate for a long time. And by a long time, I'm referring to at least probably 10 to 15 years of them doing real estate. And why 10 to 15 years is important is because it gives you time for your assets to marinate. It gives you time for appreciation to go up. It gives you time to have principal pay down. It gives you time to slowly raise your rents. Gives you time to slowly learn how to manage your property manager, so manage the manager. It gives you time to create systems and processes and to build a team. Right? If you're self-managing, it gives you time to find a plumber. It gives you time to find an electrician. It gives you time to learn how to renovate properties and how to renovate properties in a balanced approach. So it's really about creating that team and that systems and the processes. And it takes time to do that, right? And it gives you time to know your market. It gives you time to learn a second market if you decide to go out of state. It gives you time to learn another asset class, right? It gives you time to make a mistake so that you can pivot and not make the same mistake again. So that's kind of a key piece of real estate investing. And, you know, I'm on year 8, so I started investing in 2017 of, I'd say, 10 of suck. And I remember hearing other investors that they had a hockey stick growth on like year 8, year 9. After they kind of pivoted, after they kind of learned their systems, after they kind of learned their strategies. And I kind of feel like I'm at that cusp as well. And each year brings a different level of suck or a different level of challenge. So like in years, let's just call it in years 1, 2, let me pop in here. In years, like the first few years, you know it's gonna suck when you invest in real estate because you're so new. You don't really know much. Most people that get started don't really know as much. They don't really have mentorship or they're taught. They just kind of learn as they go, myself included. So for me, I didn't really have a clear strategy in buying in my first few years. I literally just bought where I wanted to live or where I had my job. So I literally bought in Livermore because I was working in the East Bay. And Livermore was the most affordable area at the time where I could put 10% down. But I didn't really know what the rents were for the whole property. I just knew that I would buy it, I'd rent out some rooms, and then learn as I went. And I ended up doing that. And, you know, lo and behold, you know, because I put 10% down, when I moved out of that house and I rented it out at a full rent, you know, I was cash flow negative, probably $400 a month. And that was including self-managing and not factoring in CapEx, reserves, and future vacancies. And, you know, fortunately, it's been the same tenant living there the entire time. But I didn't know any of that, right? But then over time, what happened? COVID happened, interest rates went down. Let's see. So I was able to refinance it to a lower interest rate. So that helped reduce my negative cash flow. Over time, I raised the rents by like $200 every 2 years. So I got a little bit more rent to the point where now I'm kind of like, call it break even. And over time, it appreciated. Over time, I had principal pay down. And over time, I built up my team of, you know, contractors and plumbing guys and HVAC guys. So it gets easier, right? It gets easier over time. And it gives it time to marinate. And then over time, I start to realize, okay, is this the best type of asset to keep? Or do I want to move on from this type of asset, right? Maybe I built up a lot of equity. You know, cash flow's kind of weak, so do I sell it, use that to pay off my primary? Do I sell it, do a 1031 exchange into more of a cash flowing asset? Or do I work to pay it off, right? There's many ways that you could pivot accordingly. So, you know, that's what I mean by it still sucks. And in the beginning, you know it's gonna suck when you buy real estate. You know that you're gonna have to work your W-2 because maybe you're cash flow negative a little bit, right? Maybe you make some mistakes and you have to fund that renovation out of pocket yourself, right? Maybe you cannot increase your deductible to $10,000 or you don't even know what that is, so you can save maybe a couple $100 a year per policy, and because you built up your reserves, right? So you know the first few years of real estate's gonna suck. But it's kind of unintuitive, it makes it even worse, is like, I'm on year 8 now. I've seen some success, right? Like I've seen appreciation, I've seen equity growth, I've seen how to manage my manager. I have my team of, contractors. Maybe you've gone through some renovations. Maybe you've gone through, an eviction. You basically learn your systems and your processes, and maybe now, like on year 8, finally I reassessed my insurance policies using steadily, was able to save a couple $1,000s a year because I increased my deductible and was shopping insurance, and then finally I learned how to manage my property managers correctly, where now I'm pushing my 20 unit property manager, my 26 unit property manager to basically start implementing RUBS, which is building back water on top of the rent. So if you do that across like 46 units at $50 each, that's $2,300 more a month in positive cash flow, assuming it's all rented out. So let's just make it $2,000 more realistically, and then you times that by 12, that's almost $25K a year in NOI increase across the portfolio. And if you assume a 10 cap or an 8 cap, that's about $300,000 more of value add, like in your equity portfolio. And now I create systems and processes to really monitor my income, my expenses, so that I caught on one of my property in Huntsville that they were charging me, the mortgage was charging me $400 a month, which is ridiculous, for insurance when I sent them proof of insurance. But I didn't catch that. It took me a while. Even though I was documenting my expenses, I was like, wait a second, why did I go from $1,200 a month to $1,600 a month? So I called my lender and said, hey, why did it go up? They were charging me for insurance. And I submitted my proof of insurance, and they wanted me to make some modifications, and they sent that letter to my old address, and I had to update my address. So there, it was a gap in my processes. So I updated the address, and I called the I called the lender, and now I need to talk to Steadily and say, hey, can you make these changes for me so that, basically I could get reimbursed this $400 a month for the past, 4 months. Like, they're charging me $400 a month, and my entire insurance is only $800 a year. So it's a ridiculous ripoff that they're charging me. And now I saw that my property tax for Oklahoma got reassessed. The value got reassessed from $500,000 to 1.6, and now I'm afraid that my property tax is going to triple. So now I'm going to proactively, because I just saw that December, start researching, okay, are they going to increase my property tax? If so, I need to research, because I do know there's a cap in how much they can increase my property tax, and I believe the cap is 5% unless they make significant improvements to the property. But what's considered significant improvements to the property, right? And between us, like, they don't know what improvements I made, right? For me, I just did basic turnovers in order to make the rooms rent ready, because they weren't to that standard. So not too significant of a renovation, got a new roof, but we'll see, right? Because I'm afraid of my property tax tripling from $7,000 a month to $21,000 a month, and that would eat into $14K a year in NOI, which is maybe about $1,500 a month, which will also decrease the value of my apartment complex by $200,000, ironically, right? So because they assess me at a higher value, and I'm like, it's crazy to triple it like that. So I need to probably call and most likely try to contest the raise, and and I'm hopeful that they don't charge me more. But there's only one reason why they would triple my property tax or my value like that, because they want more property tax from me. So I'll do research on that, and I have time, right? So it's not going to be a surprise come December of next year what my property tax bill will be, and hopefully I can contest it, and it doesn't get go up that much higher, and I can argue that, hey, like, the units aren't as nice as you think, right? I just kind of did basic rent readies to make it ready, so we'll see from there. But once again, you need time. Maybe if that's the case, and property tax goes up and my insurance goes up and the asset doesn't make sense, then by all means I have to reassess. Okay, is this something I want to keep? Is this something I want to sell? Is this something that I want to do 1031 exchange? Right? So, it comes down to that point. And, this is an asset, my golden goose asset, so I'd prefer to keep it. But, you have to constantly reassess your portfolio and see what you want to keep and what you want to sell, depending on the conditions. So, I think if I need to contest it, I have a pretty good case to contest it. And, I don't mind if they increase me by 5% per year, whatever. But I don't want you tripling it, on me. Because now you just lowered, ironically, you assessed it at $1.6 million and you raised my property tax by $14K, then it's going to lower the value of my asset by $200,000. So, it's a catch-22, right? So I'm like, well, if you increase my property tax on me, it's going to lower the value. So next year I'm going to say, hey, if you think it's worth 1.6, I think it's worth 1.4 now because you just increased my property tax on me. So yeah, it still sucks, right? So year 8, I built up some equity. Like you said, by year 8, you've maybe built your systems, you've seen some success through appreciation. Maybe during COVID, you lowered your interest rate. You've done some refinances, and you built up a lot of equity net worth, which is in my case, right? And in the beginning, I sacrificed. I lived humbly, I lived frugally. I had to allocate my money towards my real estate, and then by year 8, you'd hope to lifestyle inflate a little bit. But the bigger I built, the more I realized that I can't even lifestyle inflate as well. I still prioritize like travel and all that, but I really have to pick and choose what I want to spend my money on because I want to build up my money, build up my reserves. I want to pay down some of my properties, so I'm still living humbly, I'm still living frugally, haven't lifestyle inflated yet. So this is what I mean by it still sucks on year 8, right? Because I built up a multi-million-dollar net worth that I cannot enjoy just yet, right? So this is when it's the hardest because I've seen success. I'm like, you look at the math, right? Like literally, real estate's worth 10 million, 5 million in debt. If I were to sell everything, maybe net, I might have, let's call it $3 million net in my pocket after taxes, fees, concessions, all that good stuff, make readies to sell. And, that's 3 million and I dump it with the 2 million, it's $5 million. You do the 4% rule of that. And that's about $200,000 a month or, 200K a year, which is highly tax advantaged. Divide that by 12. So yeah, that's pretty good, right? That's maybe like 15K, a month in mostly tax-free income. And, with a paid off primary residence. So at that point I'm done, right? So obviously I want to shoot for a little bit better than that, but sometimes I see that and that's what I want to do if I want to just cash out and enjoy my life. And it's very tempting for myself, a lot of real estate investors. But, I still believe in real estate. And, I just realized if I make some restructuring, so right now I'm really optimizing on watching my expenses, minimizing that as much as possible. And I'm really trying to optimize my income, right? As in if I can implement RUBS, if I could, maybe they're not charging late fees for tenants paying late and we got to start enforcing the late fees. Right? Maybe now I'm negotiating with my Huntsville property manager because I own 3 of them with her. Can I get a lower interest rate of, a couple percentage points? And, and there I can save $100, $200 a month. So, hey, it's another $200 in my pocket. So just doing these things, right? Renegotiating the contract and making sure that my 20 unit, there's so many plumbing issues and I need to make sure that, they just don't go to the plumber willy-nilly. Now if they want to use a plumber or electrician, they have to go through me now for me to validate it and for me to approve it. And I've seen a decrease in it since that happened. So, or the property manager is just making fake bills and stealing money from me. Maybe. It's a great way to steal money if you want to. So it's to really create those systems and processes and then learn to manage your manager at a higher level and at a higher standard, which is the silver lining of having multiple property managers because I learned from one and I apply it to another property manager, right? And, year 8, like I said, built a multi-million-dollar net worth, have a little bit of cash flow, not where it should be in the portfolio. Obviously I have a lot of paper net worth. I have $10,000 a month in principal pay down, but, principal pay down doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't allow me a good life today. So that's why I decided to start moving the chess pieces around in my portfolio, restructuring some of my deals. I talked about it many times already. Sell my 20 unit, which the most value was in the forced depreciation. Cash flow, it's weak. Sell that. Pay Uncle Sam, build 2 ADUs cash or mostly cash, and have a line of credit. And then that the 2 ADUs, once they're done and assuming they're paid off, it's going to gross me about $6,200 a year, and net would probably be pretty significant because I didn't take on more debt. Maybe my property tax goes up a little bit, maybe my insurance goes up a little bit, but overall not that much more expenses. So maybe I'm grossing $5,500 or netting $5,500 a month, assuming they're occupied, and that's about what's that, about 70,000 in cash flow a year, something like that. And that's where it gets really powerful, right? So just that one move is a huge swing, right? I'm going from having a 20 unit that maybe I can have a bunch of capex and my NOIs, my cash flows really hit or negative that month, into an asset where I own it free and clear in a market of higher rents. So the gross rents would be, for the 2 ADUs about $6,200 versus my 20 units about maybe $8,000 on average, $8,000 to $9,000 on average. So the cash flow gross goes down, but the net goes up significantly, and now I'm in a much stronger position, right? And then the next question is, I can take that cash flow, if I'm still work to aggressively pay off my primary residence, or I just can sell another asset and then use that. Maybe I sell my property in San Francisco, which is my headache property. It's older, it's a little further away. I have a handyman and whatnot there, but it's just kind of out there. It's older property, more of a headache. And this is best use at this point, because it's a 1900s property, is to sell it to somebody who wants to tear it down and to develop it. The inside's nice and renovated, don't get me wrong, but its best use is to be torn down and made into a legal duplex, right? To modern day standards. And I don't want to go through that headache. So maybe I'll sell that depending on what the price is, and I can use that to pay off my primary residence in where I'm living at. And now if I'm free of this mortgage, so imagine I'm selling an asset that best case cash flows, I don't know, $500 a month after capex and reserves, into wiping off a $5,500 per month mortgage. And now if you do that move, I can increase my cash flow by $5,500 and lower my expenses by $5,500. That's $11,000 swing, and that will drastically improve my lifestyle if my wife and I do not want to work anymore, right? So that's the minimum I need to do in order to optimize for my lifestyle, right? Is sell those 2 assets and repivot those. And then once I do that, I can reassess, right? Like if, let's just say I build ADUs for sure I want to build, right? And then if I don't mind working longer, I could allocate my money to pay off my primary residence as fast as possible. Like if I want to work 10 more years, I could easily pay off my primary residence in the next 10 years if I just go ham at it, right? Just throw all my cash flow, extra income at it, and this is me without me selling. If I want to do it faster, I probably should sell an asset. Gonna get a lump sum from my mobile home park, and that's about $450K, and I can use that to basically put a large lump sum on this property. So I have many options to do that, right? So that's why I mean year 8 to 9 to 10, I'm retooling my portfolio, and maybe by year 10 I've done all the above, and now my portfolio looks a lot better, right? Maybe I own some free and clear, cash flowing a lot better, less headache. I've restructured the portfolio, and now it's sucking less. And now when I talk in year 10 and beyond, now it's all positive about real estate because I've restructured and tooled it. But on year 8, it still sucks. And people don't realize that, because people just see that, hey, you own 54 doors or you own a lot of units, you must be living good. And that's what makes it even worse, because people assume that you're good, but you're not quite there yet, right? So I've built up a lot of equity. You built up a lot of equity. You built up a lot of net worth. You're asset rich, cash poor, but you haven't optimized it yet to the point where you're cash flowing. You repurposed and restructured the equity so that you're now enjoying it, right? And that's what people don't realize. Like, especially if you invest in a high equity market like California, especially if you force a lot of appreciation of apartments, is your payday a lot of times doesn't happen until you exit, right? Whether you sell, whether you 1031 exchange, right? I had a great comment saying that, this guy, he's been grinding, building his self-storage for 5 years, super active business. And, he got to the point where, he's only cash flowing, $7,000 a month, which, the last month that my 26 unit I can cash flow $7,000 for 1 month. But like, where his most money was made was that he increased the value from 2.5 to $4.5 million. Right? So his exit comes when he does a 1031 exchange into a bigger asset, or he does a cash out refinance, or he just sells it and pays Uncle Sam. So that $7,000 a month is nothing relative to a $4.5 million asset, right? Grosses, $60,000. $30,000 goes to his debt service, and then you have your other expenses, and whatever is left over is $7,000 a month, which is a drop in the bucket relative to that. But the value was made in that $2 million in forced appreciation. So that's why I realized for my 20 unit, most of my value was made in the forced appreciation. The cash flow is, nothing to negative. So it makes sense for me to sell it and move on from it and cash out my chips on that property, right? So it's become clear to me that, like, you have to cash out some of your equity, some of your chips, in order to really enjoy the real estate and to really feel rich from real estate, right? So that's why the big people like Pace Morby, Thatch and Win, they have a huge business that's paying them, that's paying their lifestyle today, and they're not living off their real estate, right? They can use the real estate to fund more real estate or to pay off real estate if they so choose to. But it's being supported by a big active income. And for me, I'm trying to leave my big active income, so I need to restructure my real estate so that it can pay for me. And it's not there yet, right? It takes time for that portfolio to get there and to get to that point. So that's what I'm doing over the next few years, right? So year 8 of real estate still sucks, right? Like you said, I know my systems. I'm developing my system. I know my processes. I know what to expect. I've had some success, right? I've seen months where I've cash flowed, $10,000 plus a month during the peak. But now it's a different time, and the income is more variable. I've seen how variable the income is. I've seen how variable the expenses are. I've seen that property managers can get complacent. I've seen that, property tax can go up and down, insurance can go up and down, right? There's so many variables that can happen, which is why, single family homes are a little bit more stable, right, compared to multifamily. And now, I see interest rates, go up significantly as well. So, it still sucks, right? So the real estate still sucks, and it's kind of funny. They say when interest rates are low, you buy a lot of real estate, and that's what I did. When interest rates are high, maybe you slow down in buying real estate because it's not as attractive. And that's exactly what I've done, not by choice, not by intent, but just because I just bought enough real estate, I had no more capital, and it's time to optimize because I don't want to build a house of cards, right? I only want to get rich one time. And if I restructure my portfolio, I will hit all my goals, right? Of cash flowing $15K a month net with $5,000 a month in reserves on top of that, right? So I very much well see that. I just need to sell at least 2, maybe 3 assets to get there, right? Where I ideally want to gross $40K a month. My expenses is about $20K. So I have $20K NOI or leftover. And then out of that $20K, $5K is for future reserves, capex, and repairs for a rainy day. If I don't use it, great. But I'm setting aside $5,000, and I have $15,000 a month in net positive pure cash flow. And then you combine that with my $2 million portfolio, and you assume the 4% rule of that. That's $80K a year. That's about $6,000 a month. So now that's $15K plus $6,000. That's $20,000 a month, and that $80K, because it's pulling up from long-term capital gains, is tax-free. My real estate is mostly tax-free because of depreciation. So that's $20,000 a month in tax-free income of a paid-off house. I'm done. I'm set for the rest of my life. I don't have to work a single day for the rest of my life if I hit that in the next 3 years, which I think is highly feasible for me, right? Once I restructure it and retool this portfolio, I may be wrong, but so what? If I have to work till another 10 years, so what, right? My wife and I are both making good income. My wife can for sure be part-time or not work. And just with me alone, I have a very good income, right? So, so what? That's my worst case scenario. Is I continue working this high income job that, you get used to after a while. So, I'm trying to be more patient, and, that's why I'm building up this YouTube, because I know it takes time. I know it takes a grind, and I know it takes consistency. So I'm giving myself time. That's why I'm doing it on these commutes. The one thing I look forward to in my job is I can sit and record a video in my car, right? It gives me something to do, gives me something to talk about, and pumps me up, right? So, that's why I want to share that, year 8 still sucks. And you're always learning. You're always putting out fires. You're always tweaking your systems and your processes. You're always reevaluating which properties to keep, which properties to sell. Anyone that owns enough real estate, like at my point, there's some that you want to keep, some you want to sell, right? And maybe sometimes you're selling it to optimize for cash flow. You're selling it to optimize for taxes. You're selling it to optimize for headache. You're selling it to maybe pay off some debt, right? So it depends, right? Like I know a lot of people like Mike Zuber owns like 180 doors, and he's selling old properties that are headaches and just tends to change it into newer assets, not because he needs the cash flow, because he just wants less of a headache. Dion, he says that he sets aside, $5,000 a month in reserves. Cash flow is $20K a month. He can't even spend $20K a month. So now he builds up a big lump sum, and now he has to buy real estate because he just wants to mobilize his money. He doesn't like it sitting in the bank. So, now he's forced to buy real estate, but he's not rushed to buy real estate, right? He can take, a year to 2 to 3 to buy the right property and maybe put a larger down payment than normal so that it's more secured, right? So now you're playing a different game. So I haven't earned that right for that second wave to play real estate again. I'm still trying to win wave 1. In year 8, it's not enough time yet. So that's why I said people don't realize this. That's why I didn't like about Bigger Pockets. They're selling this get-rich-quick scheme, making it seem like it's fast. They changed their tone recently so that it's more like, okay, it takes longer. But most people they bring on are entrepreneurs, right? Not W-2 workers that want to leave their W-2. They're just entrepreneurs. They flip or they're a real estate broker or they have a business, And for me, if I create YouTube, I'm hoping it's just a lifestyle business because I know I'm the type to get bored. So that if I'm retired from my W-2, I need something to do, right? I need something. Maybe I'll sell real estate. Maybe I'll sell some real estate and then do YouTube. And if I can occupy 3 to 4 hours a day of my time when I'm not traveling or having fun, that's good enough for me, right? But I know if I stay at home all day or I travel all day, I'll be bored. I had a 3-day weekend. I'm okay. By the end of it, my wife and I were like, man, we're bored because we weren't traveling or anything, but we were doing stuff constantly, trying a new restaurant. Went to some museums in downtown LA to check that out. So we got bored, right? We're like, oh my God, I kind of do want to go back to work, but I just need something to do. So whether it's maybe become a real estate broker, sell some homes, take YouTube more seriously on a full-time basis. I post once daily, but maybe I can go once daily and I can also do a daily live stream on top of that, or I can post 2 times a day and go live stream once a day, or maybe I can actually have time to fly to my apartment complexes in Oklahoma and Alabama and film there and walk around the neighborhoods, right? I would love to do that, right? But right now it just doesn't make sense, right? Because it costs me money, costs me time, and I'm better off still working my W-2 because I'm still trying to optimize that portfolio, right? But I would love to be able to go to Huntsville, Alabama, then drive to Nashville after and go to the Smoky Mountains and stay there for a few days. I would love to do that, right? I would totally love to have that type of travel, but I'm not there yet, right? It's coming, right? And obviously kids are coming in the next few years and don't know how that's gonna look like. So obviously I wanna have some stable income going to that, right? My real estate's not quite there yet. So that's what I mean. Year 8 real estate still sucks, right? But hopefully after year 10, I'm saying, this is a lot better, right? Once I restructured and once I retooled my portfolio, I'll be saying it's a lot better and I can make work more optional. And and to be clear, work is optional right now, but I have to sell all my real estate, right? So I have to cash out all my chips and do that. And I talked to a lot of investors who are like, you know what, maybe they'll do that. Maybe they just want to take it easy, cash out, right? And then take their, couple millions, multi-millions in equity and pay Uncle Sam and pay depreciation recapture and cash out and dump in the SP 500 and call it a day. All right, live off that 4% rule and you're set for the rest of your life, right? So, that's the game. But I just wanted to make this video to give you that real talk, the real advice that even on year 8, for me, despite my success, it still sucks, right? Because like I still haven't replaced my W-2 yet. You know, I could have, but I have to sell, right? So, you know, for me, I need to figure out, you know, what to sell. And, you know, selling apartments takes a long time, right? I assume it's gonna take me a year to sell my 20 unit because it's a niche buyer. You know, single family homes, which people don't talk about, you can sell that much faster. Like, probably give me like less than 3 months in my Bay Area properties, but the ones in like Huntsville, maybe it'll take me 3 to 6 months to sell, but 6 months is pretty fast because there's a larger pool of people who buy single family homes versus apartment complexes. It's a niche buyer. It's going to be an investor, and guess what? You know, I lowball them, they're going to want to lowball me, right? So that's the way to play the game. That's the way to play the real estate game. So anyways, hopefully you found value from this video. Just trying to park here now. Hopefully you found value from this video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what questions you have down in the comments. I try to answer as much as I can. If you want to join my school community on a free trial, afterwards it's $30 a month, $1 a day. I host live Q&As there a couple times a month. Also have a preview of my course on there. If you want to buy my course, I just lowered my multifamily course $300. If you're thinking about going into multifamily real estate, I highly suggest you educate yourself so you can see if it's asset class for you. It's just a more organized version compared to my YouTube videos, which I talk off the cuff. And you know, if you want coaching, if you want to use Steadily landlord insurance to see if you save money, you punch in the address, they'll send you a text, a call, an email, and then from there you can basically you know, see if you can save money or not, or maybe your current policy is good enough, right? But at least now you know. If you want to use Lending One, who's my preferred debt service coverage ratio lender, also linked down below. If you want to send me an email, all my links are down below, right? Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and please tune in tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.